Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, as you can see from the background, I'm still filming for you in Tallinn in Estonia, and we're going to have a look at another beer from one of the very local breweries, and this is probably one that a good many of you watching the channel have heard of before, and it's actually the fourth review from this brewery that I'm filming for you here in Tallinn, of course. So for this review, we are going to return to Pohjala. And we've got a beer today that is a little bit of an exclusive, almost. This is one that will be a little bit more difficult to find. So for this review, we are having a look at the Cinnabun from Pohjala. This comes in at 7% ABV, and this one is exclusive to their French distributor. So it's a Baltic porter with Ceylon cinnamon and tonka beans added to it. And when I went to the brewery and filmed my interview with N and Chris, this is the beer that was going through the bottling line. So N basically just pulled one out and goes, there you go, take that with you. So I was like, right, okay. But yeah, this is a beer that you will only find in France, and it says on the side here, yeah, brewed exclusively for Saveur beer. So yeah, this one should be really nice. We did have a little taste of this in the brewery, and I can tell you it is a really solid beer, but it's quite nice to have a bottle of this and to be able to do a kind of more proper sit-down review for you as well. So big thank you to N for giving me this bottle, and I hope you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. Cool to see that these guys are doing a couple of exclusive beers as well, but there was a lot of bottles of this. So yeah, those of you watching in France, I think you are in for a little bit of a treat with this one. So yeah, let's see how we get on with this beer then. Always nice to review something new from Pohjala as well here on the channel. So yeah, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Pohjala before. There will definitely be some more in the fairly near future. There's all the usual social media down there too. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Estonian beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then to tell you a little bit about Pohjala. Course. So Pohjala, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Tallinn, the capital city in Estonia, and the company was founded by Peter Cake, N. Parrell and Graham Normitz, and they were joined very early on by Tiit Pannanen as well. So the group apparently went on a fact-finding trip to Brewdog in Scotland, and this was mainly on the basis of Punk IPA having reached Estonia, and the guys all really liked this beer. So it was there that two of the founders who were actually interning with Brewdog encountered Chris Pilkington, and Chris went on to join them as the head brewer. He'd actually graduated in marketing, but he was an avid home brewer. And you know, he was producing some very interesting beers on the pilot kit. So the Estonian group decided we want to take Chris to Estonia, and so yeah, he is now a part owner of the company, and the beers are basically all his babies actually. Very nice guy. If you want to hear a little bit from Chris and N, of course, you can check out my Meet the Brewery interview that I did with them. And that was a very fun one to film actually, so I would highly recommend that you check that out actually. And if you do find yourself in Tallinn, definitely go and visit the brewery. Very nice people working there. But yeah, the Pohjala company was officially founded back in 2012, and late that year they started doing some gypsy brewing, but that intensified over 2013, and they were brewing at various other places around Tallinn, of course. They went on to open their own brewery in May of 2014 in the Nõmme district to the south of the city, and this one had an initial capacity of around 12 hectolitres, but this was scaled up considerably over the years. They started exporting their beer in 2015, which is about the time that I discovered this brewery. And you know, these days they're widely known throughout Europe and further afield. I've seen the Pohjala beers away out in Japan and things like that. My beer dealer in Osaka, Koji Liquor Shop Asahiya, he gets Pohjala fairly regularly actually. But at their first brewery they had a tap room with 24 different taps on it as well. And a little bit later they moved to a new brewery in the Noblessner shipyard in the northern part of Tallinn, and this is a very impressive facility. Again, you can see that on my Meet the Brewery. interview, but this one has a 50 hectolitre brew house. It's a Rolex kit that they have from Germany, 4 vessels, and you know, it's a very, very impressive facility. As I said, they've got an even bigger tap room there. The tap room has a restaurant that serves American barbecue, and apparently the American barbecue chef's wife is very good at pastry. She's a very good pastry chef, so they are considering opening up a little bit of a bakery within that complex that they've got as well. So you might see the Põhjala bakery opening up at some point too. But as of August 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 69 different kinds of beer, very close to 70 according to Untappd, but I wouldn't be surprised if the number is actually a little bit higher. These guys are fairly prolific actually. But yeah, very, very nice company this one. N and Chris were great with me when I was there, so I would highly recommend that you go and try some of their beers from source if you find yourself here in Tallinn. It's a wonderful country, you know, Estonia. There's very, very nice people here, and you will have a very good time actually. So I highly recommend that you come and visit Estonia. So yeah, that's all we can really say about Põhjala for the moment. If you want to learn more, of course, you can check out the brewery website. You can go and listen to my interview that I did with Chris and N, like I said. I'll try and see about putting the link to that in the video description below. But yeah, definitely these guys are probably the best known Estonian craft brewery these days. There's maybe around 50 Estonian breweries these days, but Põhjala are definitely one of the, if not the best known Estonian craft brewery. So yeah, as I say, check out the brewery website. You'll find that in the description below. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and of course you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on and actually have a taste of this beer then. So I'll let you have a little look at the artwork of this one before we open it up. As you can see, pretty typical from Põhjala, very, very nice kind of modern type artwork on here. But yeah, I like how this one is presented, really nicely done, and yeah, pretty straightforward and simple. This one of course does have a black Põhjala bottle cap on it. Sometimes you'll get the white ones. I'm not sure what the rule is for that actually, because I've had IPAs with blacks, I've had IPAs with white ones as well. But yeah, this beer, it says on the side here, this is a Baltic porter, brewed with Ceylon cinnamon and tonka beans, brewed exclusively for Savior beer. And they've actually got French on this one as well. It's been a long time since I studied my French at school, but yeah, so my pronunciation is not going to be good if I try and read that to you. But yeah, 7% Baltic porter. This one, it says on the side here, it's got oats and wheat oats and lactose in it. But yeah, Ceylon cinnamon and tonka beans. Tonka beans have a beautiful, beautiful flavour. But yeah, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting. And I'm very curious to see what this beer has in store for us. So yeah, this one should be very, very interesting. I did enjoy this when I tasted it at the brewery, but to do a proper sit down review of this, I think will be very interesting too. We'll try and get a decent bit of head on this beer. Yeah, there we go, that should do it. Yeah, that's about just over 2/3 of the beer in the glass. So as you can see, this one has poured with a very nice 1/3 finger of a frothy, I would say kind of medium beige kind of head on this one. Very kind of almost fawny colour actually, which I quite like. 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass with this one, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there. But you know, overall this is pretty much what you would expect in terms of appearance from a Baltic porter. 7%, it is probably arguable that this one could be an imperial porter, but I think it's maybe when you go above 8%. You could say that it's imperial. You will have an imperial level flavour out of this, knowing Põhjala, of course, though. But yeah, lovely, dark, ebony, kind of rosewoody colour. If you shine the light through this, you do get a little bit of a kind of Coca-Cola coloured edge to it, but mainly, yeah, a dark sort of ebony rosewood note to this. You can see the head has just faded away to a kind of thin, foamy ring and layer on the top of the beer there, but it looks very, very nice. Let's take a closer look at the aroma then and see how we get on with this one. So yeah, this one smells lovely. I mean, straight away, this one has a little bit of a woody undertone to it, and that's the tonka beans as well that are kind of blending in with that. So yeah, lovely kind of woody backbone to the beer. Nice kind of smooth tonka bean notes out of it. Yeah, I really like that. kind of tonka bean in there. This one is kind of, in terms of the aroma, I find this one to be not too complex, if you like. You know, it says it's got cinnamon and it's got the tonka beans in it, and those are the two ingredients that jump out at you straight away, to be honest. This isn't the most, in terms of its aroma, it's not the kind of craziest complex beer that you're going to find from Pohjala. Pohjala, I keep pronouncing that wrong. But it smells very, very nice. So yeah, you can smell, it's got a lovely kind of toasty, bread crusty backbone to it. There's a few woody elements to the beer. The tonka beans come out very, very nicely. And you've got that kind of cinnamon note kind of infused into all of that. There is a wee bit of a kind of toasty brown sugar to this one, maybe a dark chocolate as well, like a 70-80% cocoa level chocolate. Yeah, definitely a bit of a kind of, yeah, I'd say 70% cocoa bean chocolate in this one. You can get a little bit of that almost powdery hot chocolatey thing out of it. And that kind of sits on top there, and that mixes in with the cinnamon as well. So yeah, it's very kind of layered. So backbone, toasty, you know, kind of a kind of well-fired bread crust, you know. The woodiness is kind of in this as well. You can smell the tonka beans mixing in. Then you've got that kind of powdery 70% cocoa chocolate. There's a little bit of a kind of sweet brown sugary note coming out of it as well, like a little bit of a kind of toasty caramel there. So yeah, there's a good few layers of this one, of course. It does, if I was blind smelling this, I'd probably, I don't know if I would gather that this one's a porter, to be honest with you. I think it's always a bit difficult, I think, to tell blindly the aroma between a stout and a porter. You know, stouts, of course, have a higher, you know, a thicker mouthfeel compared to the porters, and mainly that's due to the yeast. Of course, the porter, the English porter, the Baltic porters are almost the English equivalent of the German Schwarzbiers or the Czech Tmavis and things like this, whereas the stout is the big kind of thick thing. But yeah, this one, it's got a really nice, well blended aroma, but there's nothing for me that's overly punching out, if you like. You know, you get the tonka beans, you get the cinnamon, which is kind of what you expect when you read the label of this one. But it's a nice kind of quite, in terms of the malty, adjuncty side of this beer, it's quite nice, and just everything just blends together really well. In terms of the hoppy side of things, it's got a lovely little bit of earthiness to it. You've got a wee bit of a herbal quality. There's one or two little floral elements to it as well, and it's kind of grassy. But I'd say in terms of the green side of the hops, this one leans a little bit more towards the grassy and earthy side of things. The floral notes aren't too big, but on the fruity side of the beer, it's got a lovely light kind of figgy quality to it. Lovely light juicy kind of figgy note. You might get a little bit of a kind of candied strawberry out of it as well. Maybe a wee touch of raisins as well. There's maybe a wee raisiny sharpness to this beer. But yeah, the fruits are quite kind of light and quite juicy in this one, and the focus, of course, is on the cinnamon, the tonka beans, and the rest of the kind of malty adjuncty side of the beer. So yeah, let's have a look at this one then and see how we go. Let's actually have a taste of this beer. So this one is the Cinnabun, a 7% Baltic porter brewed with Ceylon cinnamon and tonka beans from Põhjala Pruulikoda here in Tallinn, brewed exclusively for their French distributor, Saviour Beer. So thank you again to N for just giving me this bottle to review. Let's have a go at it and see how we get on. So, Slàinte, skål, Tervisex, santé, since this beer is going to France. Cheers. Yeah. It's very nice, this beer. What I would say is, Pohjala did make their name in these big kind of dark beers. This is definitely one of the kind of lighter and more kind of straight shooting ones, I would say. It's pretty much straight away with this one. You're getting the cinnamon, you're getting the tonka beans, and it works really well. I'd say that this is maybe one of the more simpler beers, dare I say, from Pohjala. But again, it's very, very nice, and that's one of the great things about this brewery. They can take a kind of simple concept for a beer and just execute it really well. So definitely not the most complex beer that you're going to come across from Pohjala, but by no means is that a bad thing. Sometimes simplicity is better, and this is it's a very, very solid porter beer, this one. So yeah, I like this. I really do like this. Very kind of silky mouthfeel as well, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel then, let's try and break this one down. So straight away with this beer, You'll feel the middle of your palate is very, very smooth. You get a lovely kind of silky quality there. You can feel a little bit of a kind of toasty, bread crusty quality, just blanket in the middle of your palate. Does this one have lactose in it? Yeah, it does. Yeah, you can tell this beer. I was thinking that it feels very, very smooth, almost as if it did have lactose in it, and it says on the label it does. So yeah, you can feel that roasty, toasty kind of bread crusty quality forming the backbone, but then you've got lactose. What I was thinking was lactose. That kind of smooths the whole thing out, actually. It's got a lovely kind of smoothness to the beer. But yeah, if you go towards the back third of your palate, you get a little bit more of a roasty, toasty graininess out of this one. You can feel there is a wee touch of brown bread in the middle third of your palate as well. So you've got the roasty black malt backbone, the smooth lactose, and then a bit of brown bread sitting on top of it. If you go to the very centre of your tongue, there's a bit of a sweet kind of caramel. There's a wee toasty element to that as well. And as you move further out from that, it gets a little bit more biscuity. The cinnamon notes for me, the whole thing I talked about with the bready base that this beer has, it feels as if, you know, the bread is quite like, you know, you get those lovely kind of smooth tonka beanie flavours out of it, and the cinnamon almost feels as if it's, you know, it's kind of embedded into that. So you've got the bready base, then within that the tonka bean flavours come out, and you have the kind of cinnamon flavour in there, and then just on top of that, a little bit of a sweet, slightly toasty caramel, and then you've got some nice chocolatey notes to the beer as well. So I really like how this one goes together. The way that the malt base in this one goes, it's very straight shooting, but it's got a nice level of complexity to it, and it all just goes together. But yeah, I like how this one, I like how this beer is presenting itself. It's very, very nice actually. Yeah, on the hop, you know, I think we've covered the malty side of this one pretty well. It's a very, as I say, it's a very much a straight shooter. If you go to the front corners of your palate, then just go diagonally back a little bit, you'll feel a few woody undertones to the beer. If you go to the very centre of your palate and then move forward, it's got a nice little touch of a slightly nutty character to it as well. But yeah, very straight shooting. On the hoppy side of things then, in the back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of earthiness there. It's more of an American smooth earthiness rather than a kind of dark, strong English earthiness, if that makes sense. As you move further forward, there's a wee bit of herbal quality there. As you reach the front corners of the palate, it's a little touch more floral, and then around the very front curve of the palate, it's a little bit lighter and more grassy, this one. But let's look at the just behind the front curve of your tongue there. That's where the nice fruity elements come out of this beer. And there's some interesting things going on there. So yeah, let's just put the last of the beer into the glass there. But yeah, fruity side of things then, let's look at that. So yeah, when you take the beer in, it's got a lovely little bit of a kind of juicy, almost very slightly plummy note to it. But then it smoothens out a little bit. It really becomes quite juicy and figgy, this one, the further you go into it. On the fruity side of things, if you go towards the back of that front third of your tongue, where those oily, juicy esters come out of the beer, a little bit of a kind of juicy, plummy note to it. As you move further forward, it gradually juicens up a little bit and becomes more figgy. Then on the very kind of front tip of the tongue, it's got a very nice kind of slightly more berryish blackcurranty quality. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little bit of Northern Brewer from Germany in this one, or maybe a bit of Bramling's Cross, maybe even a mixture of both actually. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the hop profile of this beer, because it's got a lot of the traits, the kind of smooth earthiness and the nice kind of light floral and grassy notes. You do get a bit of the grassiness coming out of this beer the further you go into the aftertaste. But in terms of flavour, this one is really nice. I'd say this is a very, very straight shooting beer, and in fairness, quite a few of the Pohjala beers really are like that. But I think this one is really nicely done and nicely executed. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that in terms of the flavour of this one. Mouthfeel wise, definitely a mid-bodied beer, kind of, yeah, pretty much right in the middle of the spectrum, to be honest. Carbonation is very smooth. The mouthfeel, like I said at the start of the video, this one is quite silky. It's got a little oily character to it, but mainly quite silky in my mind. In terms of IBUs, I think this one is maybe, it's quite low in its IBUs, I think maybe around 30-ish. I think probably around a kind of 30 IBU beer, this one. Very, very smooth, like I said. In terms of the malt base and the kind of adjuncty side of the beer, again, very, very smooth. There is a degree of sweetness to this one, a little bit of toastiness as well, and you've also just got a little bit of a juicy, fruity character for this one. But yeah, very, very silky and very smooth on its mouthfeel generally, I would say. So yeah, I think that kind of summarises this beer fairly well, to be honest with you. I think this is a really, really nice one, and definitely one of the kind of more straight shooting Pohjala beers that I've had in recent times from the dark end of the spectrum. Anyway, they've got some really complex beasts at this brewery, so I really would recommend that you try some of the dark beers from these guys. That's what I would always recommend from Pohjala. But as we've seen in the last couple of videos, their lighter beers are pretty damn good as well. I want to review the Pilky Pills for you at some point too, so that's definitely going to happen the next time I come to Estonia. But in terms of this beer compared to the other ones, really very nicely done. Another very solid beer from Pohjala, highly recommended. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this review then. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Please, like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Pohjala as well. We will definitely be returning to these guys very soon. I've got a good number of beers that I've taken home with me from them. But yeah, these guys are an awesome brewery. Check out my brewery interview with Chris Pilkington and N. Parrow. They were great with me when I was in the brewery, and for those of you watching in France, you are in for a little bit of a treat with this one. A really solid porter beer, this one. So this one was the Cinnabun 7% ABV porter with Ceylon cinnamon and tonka beans, brewed exclusively for the Savior beer distributor in France. So enjoy this one, guys. Hopefully this beer does make it to the rest of Europe at some point. Thank you again for watching. Make sure you check out Pohjala, and I will catch you guys very soon. Slàinte, skål, cheers.